Greetings, you all. Greetings. Welcome to another episode of BGAB TV. That's Brown Girls Are Beautiful for all of you out there. Um, I told you I was going to start coming on here a little bit more frequently. So I decided to go ahead and hop on today's topic, you all. We are going to be talking about melanated people, specifically melanated ladies and medical practitioners. Now, this can also apply for gentlemen as well, because as we all know, we have sometimes been misdiagnosed in the medical profession. Now, I don't know if this is by way of default. I don't know if this is being done purposely, or is this just a simple mistake? But I would beg to say that this is probably a combination of all of the above, you all. Okay, we should be having special guest Miss Melanated Chicks joining us today. Um, I think she's doing something behind the scenes, but I did send her the link, so she should be coming on in just a moment. Okay. With all that being said, y'all, I hope everyone has been having a great week thus far. Oh, my apologies for that. I am actually making sure that the live stream is working properly, you all, because y'all know how it goes. I went live the other night and I didn't really say much of anything of any harm. However, they decided that they wanted to STRIKE my main channel, y'all, because I mentioned COVID, that there's a second strand, a second variant coming. And so with that, they said that I can't post for a whole week. So we're just going to not even worry about it. We're going to continue on talking about what we're going to talk about over here, y'all. So hopefully, the haters, whoever is watching, can calm down. Nobody is attacking anyone. We're just speaking truth. We're just speaking our thoughts and ideas over here. Okay? Because we have spies. Uh-oh, y'all. My oven is beeping. I have to go get something. So while I do that, let me go ahead and play something for you while I step away for just a second. I'm going to be right back, y'all. Let's see what we can play here. I'll be right back. And I'm back, okay? I ain't going nowhere. I'm right here, y'all. But I might have to step away again to feed the kitties. All right, let's get into it. Y'all know how we do. We like to join hands by our heads, and we want to give thanks. Yeah, we have had a torrential downpour today. We've had a storm going on. So I just want to say, let's just give thanks for everybody staying safe in this weather that we've been having. Hopefully, if you've had to go out on the road, you're driving, you just give thanks that your car is operating in proper condition. There are no mechanical failures, no hurt, harm, or injury comes to you, your passengers, anyone in your vehicle, no damage done to your vehicle. You do not damage or injure anyone else or their property or their vehicles. These are the type of prayers we have to say consistently, okay? So many things can go awry and things can unravel in ways that you would never imagine, y'all. Let the church say amen, all right? As you can see scrolling across the screen, today's topic is about the medical practitioners in America and the fact that there are being misdiagnoses going on. I do have several instances where this has happened to family members in my family. So I hope YouTube doesn't come across trying to strike saying that I'm not agreeing with WHO and their medical guidelines, because this is not based on fiction, this is based on fact, and I'm just giving an accurate account, okay, of things that were documented in my family history. So there's no need to come and attack me for speaking truth, bringing truth to light, if you will. All right. Let me take a sip of my water, y'all. And I am going to come on here. I'm going to reveal myself. Now, I sent her the link. I sent her the invite. I might have to send it again just in case she didn't get it. Who knows what she has going on? Miss Melanated Chicks is such a diva, y'all. Behind the scenes, she's probably beautifying herself as if she isn't already, looking astounding and wonderful. But that's neither here nor there. All right, so let me go ahead. I want to pull up an article, you all. We're going to go ahead and get started. But first, let me come on camera. Let me say hi to you all formally, like I normally do. Let you see who I am, see my face. All right, here I go, y'all. Now, Miss Melanated Chick, she wanted me to take my sunshades off. She was like, I want to see your beautiful face. You all pay no attention to this. This is something that I had in the oven. All right, that's just something that I had in the oven, and I will be eating that. Um, I do have on one of my beautiful dresses from Brown.Girls.Are.Beautiful. Let me stand up, y'all. This is the dark blue with silver metallic ink. Okay. If you want to hit me up, you know how to order from me. All right, I had fun coming up with the designs for this one. So, yeah, I do want to get into it because now, I don't know if many people are aware, but hysterectomies have been pushed a whole lot for melanated women as early as in their 20s. Okay. For those of you who are not aware of what a hysterectomy is, it is when you have your female reproductive organ removed. This is the organ that carries the baby, okay? This is considered the uterus. So there is a doctor, for those of you who may not be familiar with him, called his name is Dr. Lipton. Dr. Lipton, in my personal opinion, is a very good doctor. Um, and he has a lot of accolades, he has a lot of experience, and he has a lot of medical credentials. Now, I'm actually going to find an artist because he actually sends out articles for those of you who would like to go ahead and subscribe. He does have a YouTube page and a YouTube channel where he does give you information about these medical diagnoses. Sorry about that. I think the wrong one came up. His name is Dr. Lipton. Okay. So let me make sure I bring up the correct doctor, you all. This one is in Atlanta. Yes, Atlanta, Georgia. Now, he's worked with the likes of Miss Cynthia Bailey. If you're not familiar with her, she is on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. One thing that we have noticed is that fibroids have been a very common denominator in the melanated community, especially with melanated females, and they can never give us a clear consensus as to why this is going on. They say that it could be due to diet, it could be due to genetics, it could be due to a number of factors, but no one can give a clear, concise answer as to why this takes place. When these fibroids come into fruition, unfortunately, a lot of times the medical doctors want to push melanated women into getting hysterectomies, meaning that they will remove their organ that carries a baby. Okay. And sometimes these women don't even get a chance to have children or have childbirth because they have removed their female reproductive organs prematurely when they could have been salvaged and saved by having an alternative medical procedure. All right. Now, this is not coming from me. This is coming from the words of Dr. John Lipman. I'm sorry, I said his name was Lipton. It's Lipman. My apologies. I am actually going to share my screen for those of you who would like to get some information and some insight into this situation here, because these medical situations do affect a plethora of melanated women, and not just melanated women, women across the board, but particularly melanated women are pushed to have their reproductive organs removed or partially removed, or surgical practices performed on them when this is not necessary. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so that you can actually see some of the information that Dr. Lipton shares with his potential clients and future clients. All right, so here we go. Now, what you're going to find is that he is a Caucasian doctor. However, he does address melanated women as a whole, and he does express discreetly and very clearly that unfortunately, we are targeted when it comes to the medical profession, and that doctors are pushing us to have surgical procedures done on our female organs when we don't have to necessarily have these procedures done. There have been women, like I said, in their 20s, even their 30s, that have had to have surgeries because the doctors have pushed them into the surgery. They did not give them alternative options, okay, whenever they have some type of issue going on with their female reproductive organs. So, just to give you some of his credentials, you can actually go to the website. He does practice at the Atlanta Fibroid Center. John C. Littman, MD. These are his qualifications. He is board certified in radiology, as well as vascular and interventional radiology. He's performed over 10,000 uterine fibroid embolization procedures, the world's most experienced UFE physician. He is an author of numerous articles for academic and medical journals, has delivered over 200 invited lectures focused on uterine fibroids and UFE at national and international conferences. I hope you all can see my screen. Okay. Um, this is his education, but he also specializes in fibroid treatment, you all. Um, I did get introduced to him by way of my holistic doctor. And he actually had a panel where he spoke directly to potential patients, to potential clients. You could ask him questions. He was very vocal, direct, informative. And I would highly recommend him if you have any type of issue that you're dealing with. This is his contact number at the bottom of the screen, 678-679-6206. He has earned a medical degree in Georgetown University School of Medicine, fellowship trained in. Okay, so all of this tells you what he's done. These are some of his professional achievements. As you can clearly see, he's won a number of awards in the medical profession and background. One thing that I would say that I can respect about him is that he talks directly to melanated women. Now, this would probably be a surprise to people, because a lot of doctors or physicians are not going to be this vocal or transparent about what takes place in the medical practice or in the medical industry when it comes to melanated women. But if you look on his YouTube channel, or if you ever read any of his articles, you can clearly see that he does address that melanated women, like I said, are targeted for surgery prematurely when they don't have to undergo surgery. So if you ever have questions about any issue that you're having, I would highly suggest that you reach out to his office, and ask the questions that you may have. I'm going to try to pull up to see if he has any videos that I can play or share, or any articles that I can read with you, so that we can actually, continue this discussion in more depth. But I think that this is a very important topic that needs to be discussed, because, you know, a lot of times people look at melanated females and their medical history or their medical backgrounds or their medical needs are overlooked. Medical melanated women are just looked upon as people that can just be pushed to the wayside, and I don't think that's fair. So let me see, Dr. Lippman. Let me see if I can find some articles that he's written. And these articles, if you would like to subscribe to these articles, he will send them to your email directly, and you can read up on the latest articles that he has as well. All right, so let me see. And I might have some of these in my email that I can share with you all as well. Dr. Lippman. Okay. So it does look like he may have a Facebook page, or either he did some type of interaction on a Facebook page. Um, all right, let's see if I can click on this right here. It looks like he did some type of live stream on Facebook. And, you don't have to take it from me. You can actually do the research yourself. I've been knowing that, these things do take place behind the scenes with melanated women. Many years ago, I used to read articles when I would get my hair done. And I would see that a lot of times melanated women would have hysterectomies. At that time, I really wasn't too concerned about it because I was younger, and I'm just like, hearing about it, but I really wasn't paying attention to it. But now I see that this is becoming more and more prevalent as time marches on. Females are being pushed to surgery, being pushed to have organs removed, being pushed to have a lot of different procedures done that are very unnecessary, and certain having procedures done that are more invasive when there are less invasive practices that can be used as an alternative. All right. And so Dr. Lippman does talk about that as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen so we can actually um, listen to some of what he has to say, you all. Because sharing is caring, y'all. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and play this.
Stop being the best kept secret. I'm all about visibility, but I can tell you, I want to make sure that no other woman, I lost mine at 25. Oh. And you know what?
All right, she says she lost hers at 25 years old. You all, let me tell you, 25 is still young. I know they have a lot of YouTube channels out here telling you that, oh, once you hit 30, it's over. If you hit 35, it's over. No, you're still young, youthful, and abundant. Some people don't become the president until they're in their mid 40s. So to tell a melanated woman that she's no good because she reached the age of 35 or 30 or 25, oh, she's close to 30. That's crazy. When a lot of females are out here trying to get degrees, they're trying to solidify their financial future, they're trying to pick out a solidified partner to have a family with. And that does not happen at the same age for every single female. So 25 is still very young to have any type of medical procedure done to take away your right to reproduce. So I'm just going to let you listen in on this young woman right here and Mr. Dr. John Lippman.
He is here today to help others to avoid losing their uterus to a hysterectomy.
Now so, this is very important because we know that women are the portal to life, right? Why is it that so many melanated women are being pushed to use or lose their uterus at such a young age, 25 years old? She didn't even really have a chance to get to use her uterus, y'all. And it's so unfair that you have these medical practitioners taking away a patient's right or taking away a client's right, because at 25, you have your whole life still ahead of you. You have so many more childbearing years ahead of you. And it's just not right, y'all. I would have been devastated. if someone took that right away from me. And I don't think it's right. And people are not talking about this. People are too focused on the wrong things, focused on aesthetics, focused on looks, focused on BBLs, all this unnecessary cosmetic surgery, y'all. Let's listen into what she has to say.
That being said, we have none other than Dr. John Littman hitting the stage.
How are you?
Yay! Well, I'm excited.
Thanks so much for having me. I mean, you're the second supermodel that had already had a hysterectomy that still can talk about fibroids and fibroid. You can still talk about UFE even though you had a hysterectomy. Beverly Johnson here in Atlanta is also someone we've worked with. And I think I have to sign up for your master class because we're one of the best kept secrets in medicine. And maybe it wouldn't be that way if I signed up for your master class.
Yeah, you need to sign up because it's time to stop being the best kept secret. You know I'm all about visibility, but I can tell you, I want to make sure that no other woman, I lost mine at 25.
Now, you see this comment right here? A lady said, I wish I had known about this 20 years ago, you all. There are women that have had regrets because they didn't know that they had alternatives. And so this needs to not be kept secret anymore. They need to stop hiding alternative medical procedures from women. And it's not just with your uterus. It's not just with the hysterectomy. A lot of melanated women go through what's called hypo and hyperthyroidism, meaning that you have an overactive thyroid or you have an underactive thyroid. That has actually been prevalent in my family history. And unfortunately, I've had relatives that have suffered from this. And one of my relatives had their thyroid removed. Okay. And there were alternatives where you could actually shrink the thyroid so that it's not bulging from the neck. And it's called a goiter, you all, and it causes your eyes to bulge. I think that's what Wendy Williams suffers from. They call it Crohn's disease. There are alternatives. You don't have to. A lot of these medical practitioners are rushing people to surgery. They're looking at you like an invoice. They're looking at your medical benefits. They're looking at your insurance. They're looking at you like a dollar sign, you all. And we don't know what. Oh, she says she left her charger at work. Yeah, I wanted Miss Melanated Chicks to come on here. Man, she better use. Does she have another phone? I don't know. Get on the laptop, Miss Melanated Chicks, and join the live stream. We want to hear from you. Let me go ahead and continue on, y'all.
And you know what? You still can get a fibroid, y'all. You still can get one. So I'm gonna leave the stage because I'm gonna have my own notes in the background so we can chat afterwards.
Excellent. Well, thanks again to Kern, and it's really an honor to speak to everyone this evening. And I look forward to the conversation later tonight, so that we can talk about some of these things specifically, because I know every time I speak, and I speak all over the country on this, it always generates a lot of questions. But time to dive right in. The most dangerous phrase in the English language, according to Grace Hopper, is we've always done it that way. And that's what's going on with hysterectomy. We've just kind of always done it. No one has ever challenged it. And in my opinion, hysterectomy should be an absolutely last resort option for women with symptomatic fibroids. Unfortunately, today it's being presented as a first line option, and it's been that way for a long time. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to end that practice. Just to give you a little history of hysterectomy, hysterectomy started in the 19th century, and they had a 70% death rate. A lot of that was due to very beginnings of anesthesia. So, and it was done most commonly, interestingly, for a condition called hysteria, which is a whole nother topic that I talk about. Hysteria was a mental condition that only occurred in women. Hysteria, hyster, from the root word uterus, like in hysterectomy, was only in women. And it was a way to explain away behaviors by women that made men uncomfortable, women that were precocious, women that talked back to men, women that were gregarious or uh, had unfemale-like behaviors according to the men of the day, they would be labeled with hysteria and often either go to an asylum or get a hysterectomy when hysterectomy arrived on the scene. And this practice became prevalent, doing hysterectomies. Hysteria, fortunately, isn't a medical condition any longer. We recognize that that was silly, but it is now being replaced, or has been replaced, for removal of benign fibroids. In fact, Fannie Lou Hamer, and I don't have to speak to this audience about the significance of her in women's rights and in health inequities. There was a lot of sterilization that was going on involuntarily, and it got the moniker Mississippi appendectomy for women that got hysterectomies that were deemed unfit to reproduce, and they would get involuntary sterilizations. And so the practice of hysterectomy has been extraordinarily prevalent in the United States. And so surely things have changed nowadays. That just doesn't happen anymore, does it? Well, unfortunately it does. We have the highest hysterectomy rate in the world. And if you divide the United States into quarters, the southeastern United States leads the way. And I'm here in Atlanta. It's the second most common surgery performed in the United States. That was rather surprising to me because half the population is men, and yet it's still the second most common surgery we do. And the most common reason why we do it is not cancer of the uterus, that would be appropriate. It's for these benign fibroids. Why are we doing this? No one is challenging this. It's a big multi-billion-dollar industry. Some say upwards of 30 billion when you take lost wages and disability and time away from work into this. And the average age of hysterectomy in this country is less than 40. These are young women. In fact, I've met in my travels way too many women less than 30 years of age have already had a hysterectomy for fibroids. It's tragic. Mm-hmm. The uterus is not the appendix. Removing it has consequences. And I would say that the cure with hysterectomy is often worse than the disease itself, fibroids. Well, there is a common myth that I hear every day in my office at the Atlanta Fibroid Center from patients saying to me, my gynecologist told me once I was done having children that I didn't need my uterus anymore. And that's just false. There are significant consequences for women that have undergone hysterectomy. It can affect women psychologically, like a man being castrated. It can affect women sexually, loss of libido, loss of orgasm. There's a lot of urinary leaking after hysterectomy. You take this enlarged fibroid-filled uterus, which they often describe as a certain size pregnancy, 14 weeks, 16 weeks, 18 weeks, this enlarged pregnant-sized uterus, and you remove it and you weaken the pelvic floor muscles, and now these young women are wearing diapers. We know there's a lot of bone loss after hysterectomy, and now there's good evidence to suggest there is cardiovascular effects, and the younger the hysterectomy occurs, the higher the risk of increased risk of hypertension, high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, what have you. There was a book written by a woman, Lisa Cloutier-Steele. She was a young woman in her.
Now, you all, I didn't even know that. I did not even know that having this medical procedure could cause all of these issues. And I think a lot of women have been misinformed about these procedures that have been pushed on them throughout their medical history. And I think it's very unfair. A lot of times women are not giving the full picture or given the full information before having these procedures done. Again, there are a lot of medical professionals that are not going to give you all of these facts, all of this information, because they are pushing towards a medical procedure by way of surgery, because that's a big bill for them. They're going to get a payout. They're going to get paid. And just imagine if they do these so regularly, how many thousands of dollars they are getting to perform these procedures, you all.
Woman in her 30s that wrote a book called Misinformed Consent. And if anyone was interested in about this story, it's a number, they interviewed thousands of women that had undergone hysterectomy for fibroids. And the common thread that she was hearing from hundreds of these women was this feeling of betrayal. We weren't told what would happen after hysterectomy. This is a quote from a gynecologist in New York City. He says that 90% of all hysterectomies are unnecessary. Certainly the majority, the vast majority are. I don't know if it's 90%, but certainly the significant majority are. And they can have long-lasting physical, emotional, sexual consequences, as I just mentioned. And obviously it can undermine your health and well-being. It lacks a sensitivity to the needs of the female patient. It's likened to castration, as I mentioned. Considering the importance of the uterus, and that seems to be the problem here. A lot of our physicians are not considering the importance of the uterus. A disorder should have to be very serious, like cancer, to justify removing it. Unfortunately, with fibroids, that's not the case. Here are a couple examples of pictures of advertisements for adult diapers. Now, when I think of adult diapers, I think of grandpa and grandma, but clearly these two examples are attractive, young African-American women. And
now, again, I'm going to reiterate what he just said. These are attractive, young African-American women that are having these medical procedures done on their uterus, okay? There was just a young melanated woman making a comment saying that she wished she had known about this before her hysterectomy. This is very disheartening, you all. And I don't know if people understand the ramifications of what this does psychologically and emotionally and mentally to a young female that has these procedures done without knowing the full ramifications of what can happen afterwards. It's already bad enough that you have taken away their rights to give childbirth, to bear children, which is one of the number one things that a woman can do in this world. And then on top of that, there are all of these other side effects and symptoms that are not being discussed nor shared with them.
You know, Depends is from a big company. I'm not sure if it's Kimberly-Clark or Colgate or Palmolive or one of the big companies. They have very expensive Madison Avenue marketers. They know who their target is. It's young African-American women who have had hysterectomy.
Again, it's young African American women. Okay. That's the term he uses. I don't consider us African American. I say we're melanated because we don't come from Africa first and then America. We're Native Americans. We're indigenous people of this land. We're here already. Okay. Now, I don't think he's using that term to be derogatory, but he's making a point here. And this is coming from a Caucasian male doctor. Of all people, this is very surprising that he would be bringing this to the forefront. And I think it's important that we listen, because if you have someone of the opposite race telling you what's going on here, this has to be a problem. And he's probably not the only doctor that knows about this. The doctors that are pushing for these procedures and surgeries probably know who their targets are when they push these surgeries on these women.
And that's just tragic. Here is an article from WebMD about the increased cardiovascular risk for women undergoing hysterectomy. There was a study from the Mayo Clinic a number of years ago that looked at 1,000 women that had suffering with fibroids, and the average time for them to seek treatment was over 3.5 years, and a quarter of them waited over 5 years, and they were totally perplexed by this. And when they drilled down further, they found out why. Women don't want surgery, and they're not given any other option besides surgery, like this outstanding option, uterine fibroid embolization, UFE, that I'm about to talk about in just a moment. This is a survey from a few years ago that most people had never heard of this UFE procedure. Even fibroid patients had never heard of it. Those that did hear about it didn't hear about it from their gynecologist. And a number of people felt that the only treatment option for them was hysterectomy. And again, that's just false. Well, what are fibroids? They are benign, non-cancerous tumors. They're the most common pelvic tumor seen in women. And up to 80% of African American women have these benign tumors. It's common in all women, but it's 3 times more common in African American women than their Caucasian counterparts. African American women get fibroids at a younger age. They tend to be bigger, more numerous fibroids, and therefore they're more likely to be symptomatic, and they're more likely to get a hysterectomy, unfortunately, and that's what we're trying to end. And they also are more likely to be in the hospital and have a higher hospital mortality rate. They're the most common reason why women have heavy periods. And sometimes women, they've been bleeding heavily for so long, they don't realize what's abnormal. If you change more frequently than every 3 hours or so, that's not normal. If you're changing more than 1 pad at a time or more than 8 in a day, that's certainly not normal. If you get episodes of blood gushing out or flooding or passing clots bigger than a quarter or getting accidents in blood, these are all obviously too heavy, even if you've been doing it for a long time. These heavy periods lead to what's called anemia, a medical condition where there is a deficit of iron and hemoglobin from all this lost blood. And some of the clinical signs of anemia include being tired and weak, particularly around the menstrual. They may get lightheaded or dizzy, get this kind of brain fog, cloudy thinking. They may get palpitations, their heart races because it has to work harder because there are less circulating red cells. They might chew or crave ice, or might chew or crave inedible things like dirt or clay or chalk. They may get migraine-like headaches. Their hair thins, even losing hair. But all of that is reversible. You can treat the anemia by treating the fibroids.
Okay, let's stop right there, y'all, because I spoke to a colleague of mine and she suffered from fibroids. And unfortunately, she was being misdiagnosed, okay, by her medical practitioner. And it was becoming unbearable for her. Um, and I think sometimes, like I said, people are overlooking certain factors and symptoms when it comes to melanated women. She just couldn't take it anymore. And she wanted some relief. You got to think about it. A lot of times when they say women are anemic, the first thing they do is put you on iron pills. Oh, your iron's low. You know, they might, and sometimes you need to get a hormone check, a hormone test level, because I've even heard that this can be the cause of the fibroids formulating is due to an imbalance in hormones. Your testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen levels can be thrown off, and this can go on for many years and you not even know about it. A lot of these doctors are not performing the necessary diagnostic tests on females, on women. These are tests that you have to ask for. Sometimes the doctors will give you pushback. They don't even want to perform the medical diagnostic test that you're asking. They'll want to do um, certain things that is not going to be beneficial for you. So, like, in this particular case, this doctor will perform an MRI because you can see the fibroids more clearly. You get a more better understanding of what's going on in the uterus. There are doctors out here that will turn you down for an MRI. They won't let you get it. They say you have to get a special written consent. It has to come from a doctor. Like, they will make you jump through hoops and all types of barrels just to get a medical procedure done or a medical diagnostic test performed so that you can help yourself and help your health. And they play these silly shenanigan games. And as they're doing this, time is ticking. Time is ticking. Your body is changing and things are going on in your body that you need to tend to. So I'm going to tell any woman out here, be very diligent about what doctors you seek out. Always get a second opinion, a third opinion if you have to. Do research. not necessarily just online. Just seek out any medical advice that you can from certified, physicians that are going to be transparent and honest with you, not just a physician that's going to, push you to surgery, push you to having a medical procedure, and not telling you all of the ramifications behind it. So let me let him continue to go on and get to the bulk related symptoms of what's going on with the fibroids.
There are also bulk-related symptoms with fibroids. These fibroids are hard and firm. They're like rocks, and they press on things, and they can press on pelvic nerves to cause abdominal or pelvic pain, pain that can radiate into the back, the low back, the buttock, down the legs, this sciatica, just like you would get if you threw out your back. The same sciatica pain can be from fibroids. If the fibroids are near the cervix, they can cause painful intercourse. If they're in the back of the uterus, they can cause constipation by pressing on the colon. And in the front of the uterus, they'll press on the bladder. So patients will urinate more frequently than normal. They might wake up at night, even leak urine. Some of the treatment options for fibroids, many patients will get placed on medicines first. The medical therapy for fibroids is essentially pretty poor. It's tried, but it's not very good. One of the medicines, a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medicine like ibuprofen, is called tranexamic acid, and we use a fair amount of that in the office. It has special effects to lighten flow, and it's a very close relative of ibuprofen. There are a lot of patients that are placed on some form of hormonal therapy, whether it's birth control pills or a progestin-containing IUD, or maybe an implant. These hormonal agents is a double-edged sword. While they will tend to lighten flow, at least temporarily for a short term, we don't know where fibroids come from, but they grow with hormones, particularly estrogen, but also progesterone. And what's in a birth control pill but estrogen and progesterone? So while it may work for a while, in the background, you're pouring gas on a fire, and these fibroids will grow more rapidly than they otherwise would, and they become a problem. And then it goes into the surgical category, depending on a woman's fertility. If she's interested in fertility, possibly or definitely, they get offered a myomectomy, surgically cutting out some of the fibroids. And that's the big problem with myomectomy. Not only is it surgical, but they don't get them all out. And hysterectomy, losing your uterus. And unfortunately, this non-surgical option, UFE, uterine fibroid embolization, gets overlooked. It doesn't get mentioned because the gynecologists are not trained in UFE. I'm a different type of physician, trained in these minimally invasive procedures done from the inside. I'm an interventional radiologist, and that's the kind of physician that you would need to see to talk about this non-surgical option, UFE. UFE is also known as UAE, uterine artery embolization. It's the same exact procedure, completely non-surgical and outpatient. It takes 30 to 40 minutes. Patients sleep through it, but they're not put to sleep like an operation with general anesthesia. The sedation is much nicer. It's IV and local. All the fibroids get knocked out. The fibroids will start to die, and as they die, they soften and they shrink. And as the fibroids soften and shrink and die off, the woman's symptoms fade away. She's discharged the same day of the procedure, 3, maybe 4 hours after the procedure. The recovery is 5 to 7 days versus a lengthy recovery from surgery. Often the patients from surgery, hysterectomy in particular, they're out of work for 8 weeks. Our patients go home not only with their uterus, they go home with a Band-Aid. That's it, a Band-Aid at the top of their right leg where we go in. Patients can have children after UFE. That's another myth that people are told, well, if you're interested in UFE, or if you're interested in fertility, you can't consider UFE. That's just not true. And every insurance covers UFE. I've been doing it here in Atlanta for over 25 years. All of the insurance carriers cover UFE. The results are outstanding. success rate of 90% or so. It's a very low complication rate, much lower in incidence and much lower in severity compared to being cut open surgically, as you might imagine. There is no limit to the size or number of these fibroids. I hear that commonly.
And I just want to point out at the bottom of the screen, so many women are commenting. One melanated female said this could have saved her from having 3 surgeries. Okay, because like he said, when they go in and start cutting, they don't necessarily remove all of the fibroids. And then on top of that, you all ladies, if you ever had to have your uterus cut on, you cannot have natural childbirth ever in life. You have to have what's called a C section. And this is not natural childbirth. There is something special. I did the research and I was reading up. There is something very special about when a baby passes through the birth canal in a normal, natural fashion that it loses when these doctors go in and schedule your delivery date and give you a C-section. Now women, all they're doing is having C-sections, and this is not normal. Animals do not have C-sections, okay? Animals have natural birth. But now because you have a lot of physicians pretending and playing God, they are scheduling your labor and delivery. And that's supposed to be done by nature. It's not supposed to be done by another human being.
That's another myth. And the recurrence, because you typically knock out all the fibroids, the chance of recurrence is very unusual. I mean, occasionally patients will be treated a second time, but even in those, quote, worst case scenarios, 2 of these UFE procedures is still way better than 1 surgery. And myomectomy, I commonly see in the office women that have had 2 or 3, I've seen as many as 5, but a lot of 2 and 3 myomectomy patients coming to me for the next procedure. The recurrence of myomectomy is 11% per year. It's very high. That means over half the women will recur within 5 years, over a third within 3 years.
So basically, they're going to develop fibroids again, okay? Instead of just cutting off the supply. Now, if you have any women in your family, any women in your life, colleagues, family, friends, relatives, whatever have you, please share this video with them, because a lot of women are not aware that this even exists. If they're having an issue, they might not be sharing the issue with you. This is very useful because a lot of people don't even know that this exists. A lot of women are going to have reoccurring fibroids. They're going to grow back if they don't alleviate the initial problem that's cutting off the blood supply to the fibroids so they don't come back. And this is what he's talking about. Also, there is a way to shrink your thyroid. If it starts to get too big, your thyroid is right along this area right here, and it can get so engulfed that it shapes what's called a goiter, and this part of your neck will start to bulge. So people are having that removed, and that regulates a lot of important things in your body, like your temperature, certain hormones. If you have it removed, you will have to be on medication for the rest of your life. My fear is that if there was ever a catastrophe or a natural disaster, there are so many medications that are regulated by the pharmacy and they don't want to refill your prescriptions. People are saying that they're running out of blood pressure medicine and the pharmacy didn't want to refill their prescription and I need my medication. Well, what if a natural disaster or something occurred? You can't get to the pharmacy to get your medication. What happens in that scenario? There needs to be alternatives for a lot of these things that's going on. And I know we're treading lightly with the WHO, and YouTube is going to want to STRIKE me because they're going to say I'm not in community guidelines. But if you can find natural remedies and herbs to supplement within your diet, I highly advocate that you do so. Find some alternative methods to some of these solutions that these white coat doctors are offering out here.
So with UFE, you finally get the relief you're looking for. And there are a lot of women we could be helping, these silent sufferers that don't know about UFE. They're sitting on the sidelines suffering miserably with fibroids. They just don't want surgery. I don't blame them. but they don't know of this UFE option. They avoid the risks and long recovery of surgery. And importantly, they get to keep their uterus, something that is really, unfortunately, underappreciated by a lot of physicians. And that is translated to patients. That patients don't feel, well, I don't need my uterus anymore. My doctor told me I'm done having my kids. These are a couple of schematics. On the left-hand diagram, you can see here the entry point is at the top of the right leg.
All right, so he's just getting into the procedure, and what the diagram is showing you is how the procedure is performed. It's basically they inject, it looks like a needle in the right leg where the artery is. And then they will go in and find the blood supply to the fibroids, and then they will inject them so that they can actually shrink and die off, so that your uterus can go back down to normal size, so that you can stop having all of these side effects of the fibroids that's causing all of the issues. And like he said, there is a chance of having fertility. So don't think that just because this happens, you can't ever have children, because that's not true. I've spoken to people that have had miracle babies with all types of procedures done to their reproductive organs. So when the universe, when the higher power, when the creator, whomever, the angels, the ancestors, the spirits, when they want you to have something, it's going to be for you, and no one can take it away unless you are prematurely robbed, like some of these women have been, of being, you know, I guess backed into having a surgery or medical procedure to remove your female reproductive organs and not being told the full truth. So this is what I wanted to share with you all. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Again, if you want to check him out, his name is Dr. Lipman. That's John. I think it's Dr. John Lipman. He's with the Atlanta Fibroid Center out in Atlanta, Georgia. Look him up. I think he's very good. He's very personable, very down to earth. I've actually had a chance to speak with him personally, one on one myself. And with that being said, you all, you know, it is just very unfortunate that it's so common that these type of things take place in America, in society. We're supposed to be, one of the most, what do they say, the richest countries in the world. Well, I'm starting to not believe that, because just take a look around us. It's the greediest, one of the greediest countries in the world. It's a corporation. Everything is about money. Nothing is about integrity anymore. If you really cared about people, you would tell them the truth and not take away their rights as a human being. And I know there are a lot of people out here that want to say, oh, I feel like a woman today, so I'm going to be a female. That's just not true. Okay. What you are biochemically made into when you're born, that's what you are. A female has so many different things, going on inside of them that I don't even think we realize it, because we try to stereotype people. Your hormones has a lot to do with your mood fluctuations. And if you have fibroids, if you have your uterus is not intact the way it should be, this can be a result of your hormone levels being out of whack and imbalanced. This can cause crankiness, moodiness, being tired. If you know of any females that deals with some of these symptoms, you might want to tell them to go, have your hormone levels checked. And another thing too, I want to point out, you're not going to know that you have fibroids automatically. Okay. You might have symptoms and you might brush it off and just think, oh, I'm just tired today. Oh, I just have a headache today. Oh, this is just going on today. No, pay attention to yourselves. You actually have to ask for a certain test, because the doctors will miss it. The doctors are not going to be as detailed. You know your body. You've been living with yourself your entire life. You have to point things out to a doctor. If you know something isn't right, you make sure you let your doctor know. And if they're overlooking it, you go to another doctor, because they will miss this and they will not catch it. Sometimes fibroids can be growing inside of your body for many years. For 3 years, you won't even know they're there. And they've gotten the size. Some people have said they had fibroids the size of a grapefruit. So this is nothing to be taken lightly, you all. This can be growing inside of you, and like he said, they are miniature tumors. They can be benign. They're very hard. And what it is crystallized sugar. It's crystallized, meaning that it has hardened. So it is hard for these things to just shrink on their own. Okay? Please get checked if you think you're having any symptoms that could be reflective of fibroids, because like I said, they can be very tiny and they can grow rapidly. They can be aggressive and you won't even know about it until one day when they have really, really gotten out of control, you all. And again, your doctor is going to miss it because this is not something that they test for or check regularly when you go on your examinations. They can easily miss it. And just like so many other things with our bodies, you're in and out of the doctor's office and they miss it. And another thing I want to point out to you all, you sit in that doctor's office or you're sitting on that doctor's table and you're waiting for them to come in the door. You're in there, you're waiting. Sometimes they have your chart, your medical records, and they're in the back doing research because they're trying to figure out what's wrong with you. Sometimes they don't even know what's really wrong with you, and they come back and say, oh, this is what we think is going on. So pay attention also to the language they use, and regardless of what they tell you, always my opinion is you need to get a second opinion. I've done this before, with my doctor. I've gone to another doctor, I've gotten another opinion, because sometimes you have to do this for yourself. This is your body, this is your life. This is not the doctor's body, this is not the doctor's life. And so you have to treat yourself accordingly. You only get one you only get one body, you only get one uterus, you only get one whatever you have. And so we have to make sure we take care of it, you all. I didn't want to be on here too long, but I did want to touch on this topic. Um, Shout out to Miss Melanated Chicks. I don't think she could join today. I really wanted her up here to speak about some of the things that she has experienced, but unfortunately, her phone died, you all. So I wanted her to see if she could come up with her tablet or her laptop, but I guess she can't. It's okay. Now, I know all of us have had family members or relatives that have been misdiagnosed, overlooked, things like that. Look, if you have a medical practitioner and they do something so salacious as changing medical records in front of you, know that they are breaking the law and they need to be reported, okay? Save any and all evidence. Make sure you get a track record and keep a track record of all medical notes. Like whenever you go to the doctor, whenever you go to the hospital, ask for a printout when you leave, because that is owed to you. You're paying for it. It's just like when you go to the store, you're supposed to receive a receipt. When you go to the doctor and when you go to a hospital, you're supposed to get a printout of what they did, what they found, what was your prognosis, what was your diagnosis. That is owed to you. Okay. So this way you can have documentation and records of your own in case you are misdiagnosed, in case you are told misinformation. You can have a track record and they can't go back and try to change anything, because that is against the law. I just have to say that because this has happened before. And it's very unfortunate that people in the medical profession get away with a lot, especially with people that have a lower education level. A lot of times you go in these doctors' offices and they're asking, what's your highest grade level? Have you gone to college? What's your highest level of education? What does it have to do with anything? If you're here to treat the patient, you're here to treat the patient. If you're here to assess the patient, you're here to assess their medical history. Why are you asking them about their education? These things that happens to patients is done in a socioeconomic status and is done racially, basically meaning melanated people are experimented on a lot. And I actually watched a article about this with a scientist that was saying that medical practitioners experiment on melanated people very frequently without their knowledge. Okay, I'm not making this up, YouTube or WHO. These are facts that I saw on YouTube on your platform, with a scientist saying that this happens. This does take place in the medical industry. All right. So no one needs to try to FLAG or STRIKE my video for telling the truth. Just like the other night when I spoke on COVID, I didn't really say much of any harm. Just the fact that, the antics that they're taking place, and I guess when you start touching on things and telling the truth, they want to do these things. That's why I'm going to put these videos that they've taken down. I'm putting them on my Patreon, you all, if you want to check them out there. And yeah, because this information is important. So please like, share, subscribe if you appreciated the topic, if you appreciate the information. And you all check out my dresses. These are my beautiful dresses that I designed. I'm so tickled and proud of them. You can follow me on my new Instagram. It's BGAB TV. Again, it's BGAB TV. And I will try to put that link in the description box once this is all said and done. Okay. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. We've been on here for an hour. I'm going to be signing out. And I plan to come on here more often, more frequently. If there's any, or if there are any topics you like to discuss, please feel free to comment and we can examine those things. All right, you all. With no further ado, I'm going to be signing out. And again, continue to walk in your divinity over here. And shout out to all of our warriors, princes, princesses, and our queens. Continue to walk in your divinity. Like I said, stay blessed, you all. Until next time, we're going to be signing out. Toodles. Let's see here, y'all. What we're going to play. All right, shout out to my customer and client right here. This melanated young king has his own mechanic shop. Shout out to Philadelphia. All right, y'all. I am going to have to reactivate my website. I deactivated it because I was working on it. So if you try to go to the website, you're not going to see it. But if you go to my Brown Girls Are Beautiful Instagram, BGAB Clothing, you can find me there as well. All right, you all have a blessed night. Until next time, you all stay safe out there and stay winning.